challenging and with a lot of changes in elevation and camber. This is a circuit not for the faint of heart. Drivers will definitely want to get the most out of it from the early doors, and it's definitely going to be tricky to know who is going to get the best of it right from the outset. Some tricky battles are set to follow here in the Spanish Winter Championships in the E4 category. Very exciting to see what's going to occur as the competitors are ready for another thrilling duel around the circuit. Qualifying gives us a great battle in the sense of Noah Montero, the Portuguese talent, getting himself into pole position after a very solid run in time qualifying. And on this particular circuit, he's definitely going to have a lot of battles. From Nuvolari and Fangio of the first corners to the final turn, recently named after Maria del Velota, this circuit really does give us plenty to get excited about. And in these E4 and E3 cars, there will be some great excitements to finish the ball rolling. You can see that the touring cars that are just finishing their cooling down lap are just finishing things off out on the circuit. But we're here for the second round of the Spanish Winter Championship, the E4 race coming up first and foremost here at Jarama. It's definitely going to be an exciting one to see how the drivers will cope under the strain and the pressure that awaits them on this magnificent circuit, which runs parallel to the highway, as you can see from those pictures. But the battles are definitely going to be joined straight away. It could be a bit of a changing of the guard this weekend, as Noah Montero shrugs off the difficulties of qualifying last week at Portimao to get himself into pole position for the first race of the competition. He's definitely going to have an exciting time of it from that front row of the starting grid. Of course, we had this round after Portimao last week, and in 2 weeks' time we go to Motoland Aragon for the season finale, and then all of the teams will go back to base camp and get themselves ready for the F4 Spanish Championship and Euro Cup 3 competitions that will kick off in April and May, respectively. So everybody here at the circuit enjoying a fabulous RFEDA entertaining race weekend, because we haven't just got E4 and E3, we've got two of the Spanish championships from the Saloon Car and GT world here as well. But it's great to have your company here on our live stream. Jake Sanson in the commentary box position once again as we get ourselves ready for E4 in the Spanish Winter Championships. It's the second weekend of the competition. This fabulous 3.85 kilometer circuit is going to give us plenty to get excited about after the performances last week of Nathan Tai and Andrei Petrovic. We are definitely going to see a potential change up of things with Noah Montero grabbing the pole position in the earlier time qualifying session. So there's definitely going to be a lot to battle for as the drivers are gearing up for another exciting weekend. 3 races in total, 2 half-an hours, and then the sprint race that separates them in between. The humidity is high, the air temperature is low, so we should get a very interesting race weekend in terms of the battles out on the course. For myself, Jake Sanson in the commentary box, I of course have my trusted colleague down in pit lane, always giving us plenty of insight and entertainment from trackside. It's Alex Garcia. Alex, great to hear from you, buddy. How are things in what looks like a very windy Harama?
Hello, Jake. That's exactly my job. As you can see, my hair always tells you if it's windy or not. And as you can see as well, the teams are already preparing to go out on track. There's still the machines from the previous category running. As you know, this weekend is pretty packed with TCR machines and with some Toyota single make cup. So we have action, plenty of it here in Jarama. That means we will also have a little bit of different rubber in the corners. So drivers will have to deal with that. As you know, depending on what runs on that weekend, the feeling on the track is always a little bit different. Of course, Jarama is not exactly the most traditional circuit in current terms. It's different from Portimao, it's different from what we'll see in Motorland, it's different from what we'll see in the regular season. So many teams are taking this as a bit of a different weekend, a weekend where you can learn, where you can enjoy. Drivers are enjoying the circuit very much. But of course, at the end of the day, drivers are competitive, they all want to win. Teams are competitive, they also want to win. And as you've seen, we have seen MP and Campos kind of making an effort to retake that preferent position here in the Spanish Winter Championship.
So last week things were a very one-way traffic affair in the end for Nathan Tai, who really put in a fantastic effort across the 2 half-hour races. But there's still plenty of expectation that drivers will get a good opportunity to run for the front in the sprint race offering that will come later this afternoon. And with that 12 drivers reverse grid format, it definitely gives a few more drivers a chance to bid for the 10 points in the sprint race. But going into this one, last week was a bit of a nightmare for Noah Montero, all in all, although he did get it together in the final race of the weekend. This weekend, he's clearly come out of the blocks fighting fit. He knows exactly how to put himself back into the fray. And I wonder if that second place in the final race of last week at Portimao has just given him that little bit of resurgence, that little bit of confidence, Alex, to just throw caution to the winds and go for broke.
I think the confidence was always there, to be honest. We know that the problem in qualifying was a team situation. Let's say a mistake by Campos in qualifying, which is of course a situation that we never like to see, the driver never likes to see. And I think he went on track with a fire in his belly that drove him to that recovery race. That was amazing. We saw him coming from the end of the grid up to P4 in race 1, which was honestly pretty big in a class like this. The second race, of course, a sprint race, was less possible to recover, but he still made lots of positions. And of course, that last race of the weekend was perhaps where he should have been normally. He should have been at the top, he should have been fighting for those top positions, he should have been fighting for the win. And we always knew that he was going to be a candidate here in Jarama.
Well, it's definitely going to be very exciting indeed. Alex, I know that you've got a couple of bits of housekeeping to get ready for before we start the race, so we'll come back to you in a short while. Thanks for the update, and we'll get ourselves ready for the cars to leave the grid.
Looking forward to it.
Definitely getting cool out there on the circuit in these slightly raised wind velocities. It's definitely going to be an interesting one as the competitors are ready for what awaits them. It'll be very tricky, certainly considering how changeable these weather conditions have a plan to be. There's Reconnaissance, the Polish driver, who of course gets to start the sprint race this afternoon from pole position. The top 12 drivers in qualifying are reversed in position on the starting grid for that race, which is only 20 minutes in duration rather than the full half hour. So that's going to be interesting for Reconnaissance, the Polish driver, to get himself geared up and ready. But Noah Montero and Vivek Canthan making it an all Griffin core front row of the starting grid, with Rocco Coronel and the Canadian Ty Fisher right up there on the second row of the grid. As Michael Cook points out on the live stream, 23 cars covered by less than a second in qualifying. That is extraordinary, particularly on a circuit like this one, when there is so much change of elevation, so much uphill and down dale. There's a lot of gradient change. That final corner, the Curva Maria del Valorta, that is actually very tricky because it is a little bit off camber. It used to be known as the tunnel turn, kind of because it almost felt like you were entering one when you got a particular area of the angle on the radius, and it is very tricky. Rocco Coronel, third on the starting grid, the leading rookie in the field as well. And there is your points leader, Nathan Ty, starting all the way back in P5 on this occasion. Doesn't sound that negative really, but considering how strong he was in Portimao, it looks like this could be a weekend of playing the percentages. Certainly in the first race of the day, getting it into the top 3 will be a clear target. But in this field, it is quite extraordinary to think that we've got 32 cars in the field, and only 10 of those have experience at this level. There are actually 31 cars, my apologies, in the field, because we've had one drop out before the weekend gets underway. The very, very small Felipe Reis getting himself ready for another exciting battle. He's probably the shortest driver in the entire field, but he's certainly getting used to life as an E4 driver, or he will become an F4 driver once we get into the main body of the season, of course. The grid is being prepared, and we're going to be hearing very shortly from the circuit director here at Harama. Ignacio Fernandez is going to be in conversation very soon indeed with Alex Garcia. So we'll be able to hear about the new developments for this circuit. It's had a little bit of reworking over the last few years, and of course it's now the 10th anniversary of the circuit, with that final corner being named the Maria de Valorta corner, after the very sad passing of that very talented Spanish racing driver. So the cars, as you can see, getting themselves ready at the end of the pit lane, led out, ironically enough, by Rocco Coronel. Not that he's starting on pole position, he's not. He's going to be starting from third on the starting grid, but it just so happens that he is going to be the first of the drivers to lead the field out onto the circuit in format position. And of course the competitors can do two formation laps, two reconnaissance laps I should really say, around the course, and then when we've got the two reconnaissance laps done, then they will be able to return to the starting grid, and that's when they will form up into their official positions. Just a slight delay to the proceedings. We're only running about 7 minutes behind schedule at this moment in time. That happens when you get red flags for multiple categories in one weekend. We had a bit of an advantage at Portimao, being the only two race series on the bill. We pretty much had the circuit to ourselves, but this weekend it is an RFEDA winter weekend, so we're also having some Toyota Gazzoos and we're having some TCR España as well to share things. That definitely adds to the challenge for the drivers, because of course that's more rubber going down, more variations in schedule. So it all adds to the difficulty. There are going to be more fluctuations potentially in the schedule, more slight changes to this and that, which will definitely make things a little bit more interesting for the contenders in terms of their race preparation. So as everybody gets themselves ready for the starting point, it should be a really sensible run as the competitors get themselves out onto the circuit. 30 minutes plus 1 lap around the Harama circuit will come. The drivers head out onto the circuit for their reconnaissance laps. It'll be 1 or 2 laps around the course, and then they'll come straight to the starting grid where they will form up. Let's talk you around this circuit as the cars are going through. It's a very traditional race circuit, this former Grand Prix venue that hosted the Spanish Grand Prix. It's the scene of Gilles Villeneuve's famous defensive tactics victory, where he managed to hold on despite 5 cars being right behind him for the majority of the race. You come through Nuvolari, that left flick, into the tight right-handed hairpin at Fangio, through Varzi, which is a fairly fast right-hander, then to these 2 hairpins, into Le Mans, the left-hander, and then into Farina, the right-hander, named after the first ever Formula 1 world champion. Then through Pegaso, this long sweeping left-hander, which is up over the crest. It's not the easiest corner to get right. Kind of similar in a way to turn 4 at Portimao. Then you go down a fairly decent stretch up towards the Ascari S's, which are a very quick right-left flick. And getting the line right for that is very important indeed, because you don't ease off the throttle, you commit and send the car through that right-left flick up towards the right-hander on the hairpin here at Portago. We'll talk about the circuit in a little bit more detail, because down on the circuit straight itself, we have got Alex Garcia, and he has found the circuit director of Jarama, and that is Ignacio Fernandez.
Exactly, Jake, and as you were talking about all those famous names of the corners of Jarama, I had my skin getting goosebumps, of course. Ignacio, those names are history of motorsport, and of course of Spanish motorsport, because these corners have written page after page in that history here in Madrid, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. You know that we are the first permanent circuit here in Spain. It was officially opened in 1967, so we are young, we are still young, because it's just 58 years old, but we are more than delighted to have all these people here, all these vehicles with us, all these cars here with us, and especially all these young people that is driving these cars.
And how does it feel having not just the Spanish Winter Championship in the E4 class, but also the bigger cars, because it's not so usual for the Jarama circuit to have these cars, and it kind of calls us back to those times of, now my commentator, my narrator Jake was mentioning Gilles Villeneuve, Graham Hill, and all those names, because they had to start somewhere, and these drivers couldn't write history in the future, and they have to start somewhere, so why not here, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we are in our second young moment. Yes, we were talking about Gilles Villeneuve, you know, that he was our last champion in our last Formula 1 GP. And what I know is that, I mean, if I am not in a mistake, now we have like a nice new title of the championship that is Epic Championship. So I think it's epic to have this Epic Championship in such an iconic racetrack as this one.
And what makes Jarama so special for drivers? Because one thing that I have noticed speaking to all of these drivers is that, yes, of course, overtaking is difficult, but driving it, that's where the real fun is.
Yes, you are so right. I mean, if we go to 1967, when the racetrack was open, you know that, I mean, this kind of very technical racetracks, so slopey, with, I mean, nowadays, this is not like a very common kind of racetrack because they are flat and they are probably even wider and so on. So I think it's quite challenging for our drivers today. I mean, coming here and doing their best performance in such a racetrack as this one.
Ignacio, thank you very much. We're so happy to be here. This is like traveling to the past in the best possible way. This car that we see this weekend, the E4, E3, are kind of like old school cars for the future. So I think this is perfect scenario. Enjoy the weekend and hopefully we see some great racing.
Yes, definitely. I'm sure. And we have a great weather today, so we are going to enjoy not only, I mean, on the track, but we are going to enjoy it on the paddock too. Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
My pleasure.
Gracias to
So Jake,
Alex
these were the words
Garcia
of
and
the
to
director
the circuit director. Well, Nathan Ty and Renaud Franco are going to be behind Montero, Canthan, Coronel and Fisher. Dan Kelleher and Bo Levet, Nacho Tunion and Kasper Schormans on the 5th row of the starting grid. Just outside the top 10 we have Andrei Petrovic, winner last week, and Boris Leisen, who'll go pole later. Simon Barbarella and Jakub Mikalev. Then Miki Blashkos alongside Fausto Arnaudo for Monlau Motorsport, the two drivers for the same team. Luna Flusha, P17, alongside Mexico's Sebastian Frigolet, and then Jensen Burnett. He'll be disappointed with 19th on the grid alongside Elliot Kaczynski. Maria Giovananetto alongside Philippe Amon Carras. Then on the 12th row of the grid, it is the MP and KCL drivers, Felipe Rice and Louis Cochet. Max Redek is alongside Jean-Paul Carras. And then we have Rahim Alibai, the American, alongside Zoe Florescu of Romania. Then we have Pablo Ricobono alongside Alish Pinera. And then the final driver on the grid, Jordan Moodley for the G4 Racing Team. So 31 drivers in position, ready for an exciting bout on the course. And yes, it was fabulous to hear Ignacio Fernandez talking about the fantastic history of this amazing circuit and the names that these corners have. It really does show you the embedment of motorsport around this place. These corners named after some phenomenal people, the likes of Achille Varzi, Giuseppe Farina, Alfonso De Portago, Alberto Ascari, Giuseppe Farina, Juan Fangio, Maria de Velota, one of the fallen heroes of the last 20 years from Spanish motorsport. And of course, the man that many people who are of a certain age will describe it as the greatest racing driver of all time, namely Tazio Nuvolari, the man who was arguably the greatest driver pre-war in Grand Prix racing back in the day. So fabulous to see everybody in position. It'll be fabulous to see how everybody gets themselves into their lineup. Vivek Canthan, Griffin Corti, Montero Montero on the front row of the starting grid. So it will be an interesting blast down the straight for Rocco Coronel, third on the grid for MP Motorsport. He's got to try and break his way past the Griffin Core duo on the run to the first corner and continue on in the fine tradition of the Red Bull Junior Academy. There's got to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders to put him into position here from that third place on the grid. Also, Ty Fisher, the Canadian, who comes from White Rock in British Columbia. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. He's just getting better and better all the time, this talented youngster. I'll be very excited to see if he can get amongst the podium finishes today. Would really be exciting to see if the Canadian has what it takes to put himself up amongst the big hitters. Nathan Ty having to go off P5 of the grid this time, the British driver who leads the point standings after a very strong Portimao weekend. There he is, number 46, the 17-year-old from Sheffield, who picked up a couple of victories last week, one on Saturday and then one again on Sunday. Just nodding, talking with his engineer on the radio, keeping himself nicely in position. That's more than just nodding, isn't it? That's adrenaline pumping through the veins for Nathan Ty. He wants to get himself dialed in and worked up. He's a big kid at heart, is Nathan Ty. He is a very professional young racing driver, but he's definitely got that sense of childish exuberance about him as well. I think it really helps having little brother Nico with him at race weekends. Those two are absolutely inseparable. It's wonderful to have such an amazing big brother, I think. Start delayed, so there's been a slight difficulty there in getting us under starters orders. That's unfortunate. But hopefully it won't be too big a difficulty for our competitors getting themselves ready again. Hopefully the start delay isn't too big a difficulty. But we have got some more races to come later today, don't forget, because we've got more great action from E3 coming up, and as well the sprint races later on. For the moment, the mechanics are clearing the grid. So they will get the minutes boards coming up very shortly indeed, I'm sure. It's just so that we can obviously advise everybody to leave only the essential personnel on the starting grid. Looks like there's a couple of cars being manoeuvred back into position. I think there was one car just slightly out of line there. So we are under start delay conditions. Are we getting a couple of cars put back into the line where they should be? A couple of cars being manoeuvred back into a position. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but certainly there are several cars not quite in the right lineup here, and that's certainly towards the tail end of the field. So while we're waiting for that to get gridded up, we'll go back to the pole position. Noah Montero. He used to be known in the karting days as Skywalker. He was a bit of a Jedi in his day. Son of Tiago Montero, the man who got the podium finish in the US Grand Prix in Formula 1 all the way back in 2005 for the Jordan team, their last ever podium finish. Vivek Kanthan, the American driver, getting himself ready to run again on the front row of the starting grid. He was on the front row last week in Portimao and almost got the victory. Rocco Coronel lining up third on the grid again in the Red Bull colours for the MP Motorsport team. And then we have Ty Fisher. 3 Griffin cores in the first 4 places. Interestingly, that the Griffin core drivers have actually gone quicker than their Campos Racing counterparts on this particular occasion. Nathan Ty definitely giving Drivex an incredible start to the season back in Portimao, and he has the points lead. But with him being in 5th on the grid, and the likes of Montero, Kanthan and Coronel all ahead of him on the grid, it's definitely going to be about playing the percentages here this weekend to keep himself in the mix. The Dutchman Renault Franco lining up P6 in car number 1 as well for MP Motorsport. Or I should say, actually for KCL Motorsport, which is the MP satellite team. Look to the right and you can see all of the fantastic pit buildings that line the main straight. Look to the left and you can see the highway. It really does run parallel to the highway here. And if you break down with a puncture on that stretch of road, you are greeted to the incredible soundtrack when you step safely out of your vehicle to race cars. I've always felt this is a fantastic location for some great race battles. Just outside the capital city of Spain. And as Ignacio Fernandez, the circuit director, pointed out, this place has been here since 1967. That means that 2026 is, of course, the 60th year of the opening of this particular race venue. Hosted the Spanish Grand Prix on a number of occasions as well. And of course, its last Grand Prix saw a fabulous and now famous victory for Gilles Villeneuve, the mercurial Gilles Villeneuve, a word that has been used to describe him many, many times. This place has a lot of history, it has to be said, and it's great to see that there is still that amazing romance that is evoked from this particular circuit in the modern era. So the marshal's just checking everything over, making sure that we're all going to go relatively according to plan. The 5 minutes board has just gone up, so at least we're going to get ourselves back on schedule relatively quickly. Hopefully we're not going to be too delayed as to how things are currently looking, but it's certainly going to be an exciting one as the competitors know just how tricky the racing is set to be here. Going through the 23 drivers that are separated by a second in the time qualifying session: Noah Montero, Vivek Kanthan, Rocco Coronel, Ty Fisher, Nathan Ty, Renault Franco, Daniel Kelleher, Bolivet, Nasha Dunion, Kasper Schormans in P10, and then Andrei Petrovic and Boris Leisen. Petrovic is getting a bit of a reputation for getting towards the sharp end of the field on sprint race. 13th, Simon Barbarella, Jakob Makilev, then Miki Blashkos, Fausto Arnaudo, Luna Flusha, Sebastian Frigelet, Jensen Berner, Elia Kaczynski, Maria Giamonanito, Philip Armand Carras, and Felipe Rice. 23 drivers covered by less than 1 second. Great to see the little karting circuit there on the left of your screen as well, just in between the turns of Nuvolari, Fangio and Farina. And of course, that's where a lot of the youngsters who come here to watch the racing will get their first taste of going racing. Certainly happened for me when I was a spectator of motor racing all the way back in 1995. I went with my father. We watched some touring car racing at Silverstone. There was a karting circuit very similar to that one round the back of Woodcote in those days. That's where I got my first taste. Many of the drivers here got their first taste in a similar way. I know for a fact that Nathan Tighe, the Drivers' Championship leader, certainly did. 25 points to the good on Noah Montero, but he's on pole, the Portuguese driver. 1 point and 1 position ahead of Vivek Kanthan. So this could be a fascinating weekend where Nathan Tighe just tries to bank as many points as physically possible. Could be a very interesting day at the office indeed. He's certainly got to work hard for it. He's going to make it a very interesting battle out on the circuit for sure. All of our competitors getting themselves geared up and ready for the first race of the 3 this weekend on the Circuito de Madrid Jarama. The teams have already had their nominated drivers confirmed for scoring points because the teams have 3 or 4 drivers, sometimes even only 2 drivers confirmed in each squad. So in that scenario, all of the teams, nominate 2 drivers to score points over the weekend. 1 minute board goes up, so in 1 minute they will go around for their formation lap. So MP have nominated Rocco Coronel and Casper Schulmans, the 2 Dutchmen, to score their points this weekend. Rather ingeniously, KCL have nominated Renault Franco and Boris Leisen, which has worked out very well because Boris Leisen has actually got the reverse grid pole for the sprint race this afternoon. Very ironic. Vivek Kanthan and Noah Montero for Griffincourt. Good job for them because they're both on the front row of the grid for this one. Set to be on course for the maximum 43 points for the team. They'll be happy with that. Campos have selected Daniel Kelleher and Luna Flusha after her brilliant job last week, although of course on this occasion she's been out qualified by Jakub Mikulev. Plenty of time to get back up the order, of course. Drivex have got Nathan Tighe, who's right up there in 5th position on the grid, and their other driver that they've gone for is actually Jensen Burnett, who's had a nightmare qualifying. He's down in 19th, while their teammate Simon Barbarella of Argentina is 13th on the grid. So it could be a rather headachy weekend in terms of the team's championship for nominated drivers. DXR, well, there's no surprises there. Elliot Kaczynski and Sebastian Frigolet, they are the 2 highest ranking drivers of the 3 as we go off on our formation lap. The Thibaut Courtois Racing Team have Mario Giamonito and Bo Levet. No major shocks there because, of course, they are the only 2 drivers for that particular team. And then we've got the T-Code squad. No guesses for who's going to be scoring the majority of their points after the first weekend. Andrei Petrovic, along with Nacho Tunion, the Spanish driver, is in the mix there as well. And then Monlau Competición, they've selected Miki Blascos and Fausto Arnaldo. Technicar, well, they've nominated Alish Pineda and Zoe Florescu, which is a great vote of confidence for the Romanian. And then GRS, Pablo Ricobono and Dante Chima will score the points. And then Jean-Paul Carras and Jordan Moodley. Although, of course, Dante Chima was nominated. Rather sadly, he has had to pull out of the weekend, certainly out of the first race. I don't know whether he's withdrawn from the entirety of the weekend, but certainly Dante Chima is not taking up his position on the starting grid. Look at these fabulous corners that the drivers are making their way through. Out of Nuvolari, the quick left flick where you start to brake for Fangio, the right-hand hairpin, then through Varzi, right-hand flick. Le Mans hairpin left, Farina hairpin right, then up to Pagasso, which is quite a square left-hander, although it does open on the gradient. Ascari S's right-left, keep it on the black stuff and flatten the throttle through Portago. Then down through turn 10, this left-hand kink you can see approaching the Bugatti S's, which they've just navigated. Then up the hill and onto this double apex right-hander known as Monza. They come through Monza and then down the drop they start to descend into Maria de Velota corner, named after the great Spanish racer who was a test and development driver for the Marussia race team in the early part of the 2010s. Sadly, she passed away, and after her passing, her legacy is remembered by the final corner on this circuit being renamed in her memory. And so the drivers will blast up to Nuvolari, the corner named after possibly the greatest racing driver of all time, certainly one of the greatest pre-war Grand Prix drivers of all time, Tazio Nuvolari, as Montero and Kanthan get themselves down to the first corner. Certainly not as wide a start-finish straight as it was at Portimao. So you're going to have to be very tactical with how you take up your starting positions. Everything's got to be done just so on this start. And all 31 drivers in the fray are hoping for an exciting launch to the first corner. Let's hope that we are going to have a clean as a whistle run, although with a tighter circuit compared to last week at Podium, and certainly a lot more at stake for the drivers, needing to tidy things up after a tough weekend earlier on. There is definitely a lot of pressure on the drivers to get this right. 14 degrees Celsius air temperature. It's very much cooler than it was in Portimao. So let's get racing for the E4 Spanish Winter Championship for the second weekend this season. Green flags at the back, and now the engine revs will rise as the lights will come on. When they go out, we'll be racing. Let's race at Harama! Couple of drivers look like they jumped the start of the back of the field, but certainly for Noah Montero, it's a perfect launch as Rocco Coronel is already under pressure from Ty Fisher on the far side through Nuvolari and out through Fangio. Canthan is trying to go right round the outside of Montero as the field tucks its way through the opening hairpin, and so far Coronel has made a great bid to get into second position. He's going to make it on the way through. There's not a lot to play with, and off the road goes Canthan in his bid to keep Coronel back. Through Vartsy, they were side by side, and Coronel's through in a second out of Lamar. They now work their way through the hairpin out of Farina and up towards Pegaso. Starting procedure under investigation already. But Coronel is into second place as they come out of Pegaso. Great start for Montero from Coronel, Canthan, Fisher, Ty, Franco, Tunion and Lovette. So they work their way through Ascari. Big lock up there in fourth place from Ty Fisher as he tries to keep Nathan Ty behind him. Not an easy one there, as all of the drivers are trying to keep themselves in a good flow position. Dropping down the hill out of Portago and up the run to the Bugatti S's. And Coronel definitely under some pressure here from Vivek Canthan, who really is trying to bounce back here in a fantastic fashion. Nasha Tunion getting a decent start. He's already putting pressure on Renault Franco for a place in the top six. So the competitors run out of Monza, down to Maria del Velota, and on to the home straight once again, and it's a clean green first lap. Already trying to break the toe. Montero knows he's going to have big pressure from Rocco Coronel heading down to the first corners. Right up against the pit wall, you really get a lot of aerodynamic benefit from running quite tight close through the Nuvolari kink and out through Fangio once again. Back on the power, and that's a move for fourth position further back. Nathan Ty gets his run on Ty Fisher. So Nathan Ty gets ahead of the Canadian and moves up into fourth position. Run wide from Coronel. Is that going to be enough for Vivek Canthan? We've got yellow flags around the course. Is that enough for a safety car, or will it just be a brief yellow flag? We've got problems at turn one by the look of it. Safety car. Safety car is called almost instantly. So that's a little bit of pressure off Rocco Coronel for the time being. And good timing from Nathan Ty to get ahead of Fisher going into the first corner. But we've got yellow flags at turn one. So it's clear that somebody has not made it through. Well, we've got Blaskos, Nato and Cochet, none of whom have actually made it through the first corner, and they were battling for 15th at the time. So I think we've had three cars go off into the first corner gravel trap. We need to see what's happened. We're going to see a replay of something, probably the start. Oh, well, no, that's what's happened. Into the gravel goes the 39 of Louis Cochet. But where are his opponents? Because Cochet is there at turn one in the gravel. I have a feeling the other two might be with him. We're not entirely sure where they are. Certainly Cochet is in the gravel and not going any further. That would be enough for a safety car on its own. But I don't think he's alone. I think Maria Germana Neto and Miki Blaskos are there as well. So the safety car will catch the field, and we will go back to single file formation. If you are Louis Cochet, that is a bitter, bitter feeling, isn't it? Just sitting there in the gravel, knowing you can't go anywhere. The car is still working, but your race isn't. It's well and truly done in the dust. So out in first position then, Montero, ahead of Coronel, Canthan, Ty and Fisher. Franco P6, then Tunion, Lovett, Shormans and Petrovic. Oh, there are the other two. So I was just looking at the timing screen at exactly the wrong moment, because now we see what has befallen Maria Germana Neto and Miki Blaskos. They've done exactly what they should do in that circumstance. They have stayed in the car because it actually is safer under those circumstances, just to stay put, stay where you are. There's a safety cell in that car for a reason, so the drivers are just staying exactly where they are for the moment. Judged on the camera angle and the fact that the camera had already swept through to look at the leaders, I don't think we're going to get a better shot of what happened at turn 1. So all of the competitors are running in close proximity. So the yellow flags are out on the course, as expected. So it's going to be a very strong run for all of the competitors on the restart, because this circuit really does lend itself to a little bit better tyre wear compared to last week, just because it is a significant drop in temperature. The further away from the equator you go, the cooler it gets, and with this being February the 28th, it is very cool indeed around the circuit at the moment. Only a 14 degrees Celsius air temperature. It's a very cool race circuit, 26 degrees Celsius track temperature at the moment. And we have 28 of the original 31 drivers starting. So all of the contenders getting themselves geared up and ready for another exciting bout. When this race restarts, it'll be a very close quarters one right from the outset. I should point out that because of the tight nature of the schedule, straight after this race is the E3 race, so unfortunately we may not be able to stick around in particular detail for the podium on this occasion, but no doubt there will be plenty of pictures and images from the 3 drivers who end up on the podium. But as you can appreciate, as soon as the E4 race is over, we've got an E3 race to get started and underway, especially now that we're a few minutes behind the scheduled timetable. So for Noah Montero, he's leading the way. Rocco Coronel second from Vivek Kanthan. Nathan Tighe's made a good start, put himself into 4th position nice and early. So we'll see how the competitors are working forward. It's interesting, the debate at the moment appears to be very interesting in terms of Rocco Coronel's driving tactics. They seem to think that Coronel pushed Vivek Kanthan onto the curb. I'm not entirely sure I'd agree with that one, folks. It's an interesting take you've made on it, but as we've learnt from the world of Formula One, there are 2 types of racing driver. There are the conservative and there are the dictatorial, and Rocco Coronel has proven more than once that he's only going to leave as much space as he actually has to. There are racing drivers, of course, that take a rather more aggressive tack, who basically say, I'm going to give you a choice when we're going wheel to wheel. I'm slightly further in front of you. I'm going to make you choose. You're either going to stay where you are and hit my car and we'll both go out of the race, or you're going to back down and we'll both keep going and I'll get the place. Now, there's nothing wrong with that stance at all. So people criticising Rocco Coronel there, that's a little bit harsh, in my honest opinion. I think that a racing driver is allowed, once they're far enough in front of the car, to take their own racing line. And look, you're racing. We get excited about the fact that drivers will go wheel to wheel. Kanthan obviously committing to the move and putting his car onto rather a lot of the curb than perhaps he'll feel he will want to do with the later part of the race to come. But I wouldn't criticise Rocco Coronel too harshly there, because it's quite interesting to see the differences in the nature of the drivers. And Rocco Coronel is perfectly, legitimately allowed to go wheel-to-wheel racing with Vivek Kanthan on this occasion. Just a couple of questions on the stream while we're behind the safety car. Why are there different colours on the driver numbers on the graphic? Well, it's very simple. The ones that are highlighted in red, they are the rookies, which is quite incredible when you think that there's only 10 of them in this entire field that are not rookies. So a very cold circuit, Harama circuit here. Drivers having to deal with the situation. That's the thing about racing in the winter. You do not get a lot of air temperature in Spain at this time of the year. Portugal, a few more so degrees, because it's just that little bit closer to the equator. Further south you go, within reason, the warmer it gets. If you're in Europe, it certainly works. If you're in Africa, it doesn't quite work the same way. The further south you go, the colder it gets, of course. So Noah Montero, Rocco Coronel and Vivek Kanthan from Ty, Fisher, Franco, Tunion, Lovett, Shulmans and Petrovic. Kelleher in 11th position, Simon Bulbarella in P12, the Argentine, as the fans are enjoying themselves with a few more jumpers than you would normally see over the course of the season. It is a little bit chillier in this part of the winter than it would be when we come back here later in the year. Jackets and jumpers. God, I remember what those were like to wear. And you can see the safety car out to the front end of the field, still leading the field around. We've got 3 cars embedded in the gravel at turn 1. So as you can appreciate, with this being a shorter circuit than at Portimao, it's going to take considerably longer to clear the circuit. And we do more laps behind the safety car because the circuit layout is shorter here than it is at Portimao. I believe that is the Toyota Yaris GR safety car at the front of the field. I've actually driven one of those. They're pretty nippy, and certainly for the racing that we've got here this weekend, that's pretty ideal. You certainly don't need any Porsches or Aston Martins when the cars are not going anywhere near as fast as Formula 1 cars. You can see there is a rather disgruntled looking driver on the far side of the course. That is Miki Blascos. Very disappointed that his race is now essentially watched from the inside line at turn 1. He really didn't want to be there. Chatting to the photographer by the look of it. Is it good doing your job? It's certainly better than mine right now. I've been there at the side of the road during practice sessions and qualifying runs with drivers when they've got out of the car. Quite a lot of them have a decent sense of humour in these situations, and I'm sure that Miki Blascos is definitely going to rue the day that he parked his car up in the gravel at turn 1 on the first race of the weekend. Hopefully he'll get 2 more shots over the course of the next 24 hours or so. So Noah Montero leads them under safety car. Rocco Coronel really wants to get him back on the restart if he can get an opportunity to. There at the back of the field is the 94. That's Jordan Moodley, the South African for G4 Racing. Very talented young man is Jordan Moodley. But when you're in a field of 31 drivers and the gap is about 1.5 seconds between everybody, it's always very tricky to get yourselves up to speed. But Jordan Moodley raced in the Formula Trophy UAE at the end of last year. Very capable and very talented young man, teammate to the Carras twins. Hoping for a little bit more from this weekend than he's currently getting. The safety car will carry on for at least 1 more lap as we wait for the wreckage at turn 1 to be recovered. So going through the field then in full, Noah Montero from Rocco Coronel and Vivek Kanthan, Nathan Ty up to 4th place after his duel with Ty Fisher. Then Renault Franco ahead of Nacho Tunion, Bolivet, Kasper Schulmans and Andrei Petrovic are the point scorers as it stands. And then 11th place for Daniel Kelleher, who was fastest in both the practice sessions yesterday, by the way. So he's got some speed to unlock. Barbarella P12, Jakob Mikulev in 13th from Foster Wanado and Boris Leisen. Then Jensen Burnett and Luna Flusha. Philippe and Jean-Paul Carras. Rahim Alibai is in 20th position. And then we've got Pablo Ricobono and Felipe Reis from Sebastian Frigolet and Zoe Florescu. Elliot Kaczynski, Alex Pineda, Max Redek and Jordan Moodley. Only 28 of the cars still going. Through Le Mans, the left-hand hairpin. And then up towards Farina, the right-hand hairpin. The corner named after the first ever FIA Formula 1 World Champion, Giuseppe Farina, Dr. Farina, of course, all the way back in 1950. 76 years ago. Crazy how much time has flown in world motorsport. And all of the names of the corners here named after legends of the sport, both pre and post-war. Nuvolari, Fangio, Varzi, Farina, Pegaso, Portago, Ascardi, and of course Giuseppe Bugatti, whose fabulous engineering led to the Bugatti race car company that turned into the Bugatti sports car company that we have today. And then we have Maria De Vallota, the newest incumbent on the circuit. The final corner named in her honour. So the drivers will be finding this very frustrating, sat behind the safety car for such a long period of time. Everything getting very tricky as things currently progress around the course, but unfortunately we have to wait until the marshals are prepared. And as I've said many times before on these broadcasts, if there is even 1% of doubt, you do not, I repeat, you do not take the risk. These are the lives of the marshals. You do not put them in danger. And so it is very important that we make sure that everybody is in the correct position. Oh, looks like there's some damage. Somebody's run over some damage on the main straight there. That's a very strange position for the cars to be crumbling over bodywork just in the straight line of the main straight. Was that Noah Montero? Did he actually hit a piece of bodywork from a car there? Well, I'm fortunate enough that I've actually got the streaming monitor right in front of me and I can go back and look at it again. It looks to me like there was indeed a piece of bodywork that was, hang on a minute, did it come off the safety car? I'm just trying to look back. And yes, there was something flapping off the safety car. It parted company into the following cars. I've never seen that before. Goodness me, the safety car shedding bodywork like a Lego car being dropped down the stairs. I've never seen that before in racing. Wow. I mean, I've only been commentating for 15 years, but we think we've seen everything in this sport. Well, there is the shrapnel from, of all things, the safety car. Can you believe what you're witnessing? I certainly can't. Of all the mad things I've seen, so the safety car's going to have to stay out longer because of itself. My goodness me. That is a first. That is absolutely a first. Let's look at the back of it if we can. Well, it looks A-okay. I'm not sure what's happened there. It looks like it's still in perfect good working order. So something's come off it or something's been stuck to it all the time, or what on earth is going on? And now the safety car is encouraging everybody, look, let's go to the far side. Let's not go near the pit wall because bits of my own car came off there. Well, the drivers are still very much going wherever they please at the moment. I'm baffled, absolutely baffled and bemused. Well, let's try and move on from it because that's not something that we want to dwell too long on, but that's certainly one of the more bizarre incidents I've ever seen in motorsport. Noah Montero leading Rocco Coronel behind the safety car. Then we've got Vivek Kanthan third and Nathan Ty in fourth. So with a 25-point gap between Nathan Ty and Noah Montero in the championship and a 26-point gap between Ty and Kanthan, the British driver Nathan Ty certainly doing the best he possibly can to keep himself in the midst of what's going on. So I would suspect that it's going to be a very interesting battle for Nathan Ty when this race resumes, because from fourth position, and the safety car is coming in this lap, from fourth position he's got a chance to take on Kanthan. But this is now all down to Noah Montero. So Noah Montero will now take up his stance at the front end of the field. The drivers work their way out of Portago, named after the legendary Spanish driver for Ferrari back in the 1950s, who rather sadly lost his life in the Targa Florio back in the day. It might actually have been the Mille Miglia, my apologies. Those two great Italian road races of the early part of the motor racing folklore of Grand Prix racing. It's a story that is very detailed in the portrayal of the movie Ferrari, which is the biography of the life of Enzo Ferrari, where Adam Driver played Enzo Ferrari and Alfonso de Portago played brilliantly by Gabriel Leone, who of course also played Ayrton Senna in the Netflix TV series, which I also recommend watching. Right after this though, because we've got Noah Montero on a restart through Maria Del Vallota. Now he drops the hammer, but Rocco Coronel was prepared for it. So as we go down the straight, it's green, 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 and it looks to me as though Coronel has got a fantastic toe on Noah Montero. Is the Dutchman going to be close enough to go for it into turn one? Through to Nuvolari. He has to think about it, and he's got to go the long way round. Contact! Oh, Ty and Vivek Canthan spin around, and Coronel is caught out. Blameless. Canthan and Ty collected each other, and Rocco Coronel is an innocent victim. Is Coronel back out onto the circuit? He is. So is Canthan, but missing his front wing in the process. Well, Canthan was defending from Nathan Ty. They tangled, Canthan spun, and there was nothing Coronel could do but go into him. A lot of drivers had to take avoiding action there. Rocco Coronel has got going again, but it's caused absolute pandemonium as the rest of the field is trying to make use of the only 10 minutes left in this race. And Coronel's got big damage to his side pod, so he's not going to be going much further. Goodness me. Canthan returning back to the pits, no doubt, with a broken front wing. A missing front wing, never mind broken. As now Montero leads Fisher. Fisher's got a broken front wing. So Fisher's going to be coming back into the pits rather smartly as well. So will Nathan Ty be able to keep going? Montero is leading, and he's the only one really here who's been able to get this right. Ty Fisher's got a broken front wing. It's not loose, it's loose, but it's not parting company with the car. But Nathan Ty could get a really good run here down to turn one. Very eager on the defense. Is up to fourth place. Get this, is Beau Levet. Beau Levet for Thibaut Courtois Racing, now in fourth position. He'll be delighted with that. Fifth place for Tunion, then Schaumanns, Kelleher, Ornaldo, Franco, and Andrej Petrovic. So Franco had to take avoiding action in all of that as well. He's down to ninth. Trying to see if anybody else really slipped backwards down the field. Well, other than Coronel, of course. And Vivek Canthan, I think, has come back into the pits. Indeed he has, so has Coronel. Both of them are out, because they both got too much damage to continue. And unfortunately for Rocco Coronel, he's out of the race, and in my opinion, completely blameless. So Nathan Ty has now got ahead of Ty Fisher. He's made the move into second place, and he's 1.7 seconds back from Noah Montero, sorry. Bit of a lock-up there from Levet. But for the moment, Beau Levet driving beautifully, fourth position. So a very exciting battle out on the course. Drive-through penalty for car number 7 for jumping the start. So that is Felipe Rice. Felipe Rice, unfortunately, the MP driver, jumped the start, according to the officials. So it looks to me as though he is going to be in for a drive-through penalty. There's not a lot he can do about that. Looks like it's a slam dunk from his point of view. So Nathan Ty up to second place, trying to close in on Noah Montero. Right up against the pit wall. Montero trying to drop Ty. The gap is 1.4 seconds though. Ty is going 0.3 of a second quicker per lap at the moment than Noah Montero. So the British driver definitely in a good position to capitalise. This Harama circuit, a real driver's challenge through Vardsey, up towards Le Mans, into the hairpin. Wide trajectory. There's a couple of different choices of racing line you can take through that part of the course, as Nathan Ty bangs in a 1:32.880. He was the only driver in the entire field to get into the 1:32s. Starting procedure will be investigated after the session for the number 77 for a jump start. That is Andrej Petrovic, who's up in 8th place. Fascinating stuff for the moment for the race control to be sifting their way through. Careful, Nathan, don't use too much of that curb. You do not want track limits violations. There's the penalty for Felipe Rice. That's his jump start sadly confirmed, as Noah Montero pushes his way out of the Bugatti S's, up the elevation, up towards the Monza turns. Double apex right-hander. Plant the car in, goes a little bit wide in, but that's fine because you can get a tighter trajectory for the second. Then down to the final corner, the curve at Maria del Velota, and then onto the home straight again, drop down the crest. It's a real kickback you get onto the home straight once again, as Montero drives past the pit complex, up towards the Nuvolari kink, which is how the straight is not quite straight. And then brake, turn in, Fangio, hairpin right. And now a new fastest step from Noah Montero. He responds to the challenge from Nathan Ty, as Ty Fisher is struggling to keep up with them. Then Beau Levet is being caught by Nacho Tunion. So Tunion is putting pressure on the Belgian through Vardsey, right-hander, into the Le Mans hairpin. Big lock-up from Tunion. There's a lot of lock-ups in this field. Why, you may ask? Well, the track temperatures are only 27 degrees Celsius because the air temperature is only 14. It's very cold indeed today. So there'll be a lot of lock-ups throughout the entirety of this race. So a very tricky situation for everybody. 6th place is Kasper Schaumann. 7th is Daniel Kelleher. There is Andrej Petrovic. He's under investigation for a possible jump start. 9th place for Renault Franco, and the final championship point at the moment is going to Fausto Arnaldo. So Noah Montero is the only man who's going to gain points on Nathan Ty here. The gap was 25 points. It's going to drop to 18. That's a fairly hefty gap deficit there from Noah Montero to take 7 points off Nathan Ty's lead. But the British driver is certainly looking pretty strong now, because considering where he was on the restart, he was P4. So he was P4. Obviously the incident between Canthan and Coronel, which I'd like to get another look at when we get an opportunity. The problem is the racing's been so good on this restart, we haven't really seen a replay of that incident with Coronel and Canthan. I'd quite like to when we get the chance, because it wasn't clear to me how that incident started. All we know for a fact is that Canthan was going sideways, speared into the side of Coronel, nothing that either driver could do, and both men are out of the race with damage to their cars. Canthan, I should point out, that's not actually true. Canthan has got going again, albeit he is now a minute back. Kick out through the left-hand flick. Out of Pogasso and up to the Ascari S's. Flat on the throttle through this part of the course. Then brake and into Portago. So many changes in camber and elevation on this part of the course. You really do have to work hard on this Harama circuit. This is a driver's circuit compared to some racetracks like Portimao, which is both a driver's circuit and a racer's circuit. This track is about patience, it's about discipline, it's about getting it absolutely right. Never easy on a circuit like this one. Montero leads Ty. Fischer. Schaumanns is having a problem. Kasper Schaumanns is dropping back. Something's happened to Schaumanns. Safety car again. And with 3.5 minutes to go as well. Now, based on what happened earlier, oh, that's a big impact. That is the T code. And that is Nacho Tunion. Tunion was battling with Schaumanns. Red flag. Race has been stopped. So Nacho Tunion is there at the side of the road with a very damaged car indeed. Session will not resume, we're told. So that's it. The race is going to be stopped indefinitely, and it means that Noah Montero is declared the winner. Nathan Ty second, and Ty Fischer gets a podium despite a loose front wing. Bolivet fourth, Kelleher fifth, from Petrovic, Franco, Arnaldo, Leishin and Jensen Burnett. Although, of course, red flag proceedings means that we are probably going to go back a lap to the last fully completed lap. So the race has been red flagged due to an incident between Kasper Schaumanns and Nacho Tunion. So those two out of the race. That was in the second sector. Trying to make out exactly where that was. But, oh, well, there it is. It's on the exit of Bagasso. Well, I can only see Nacho Tunion's car there, so I can't quite make out where Kasper Schaumanns' car is. But clearly, the incident involving both drivers, and the race has been red flagged. So the cars will come back to the starting grid once again. And so we'll, sorry, they'll come back into the pit lane, my apologies. So we'll obviously see everybody returning back to the pit lane, and the race will be declared as it currently was. So Noah Montero will be the race winner, and that will certainly help things out. There is Nacho Tunion. Oh, and there is Kasper Schaumanns' car, but he's not in it. There he is. So that is a massive sigh of relief. Both drivers are okay. No wonder we went red flag. Kasper Schaumanns' car actually vaulted the barrier. So now we know why we went red flag. Goodness me. What a nasty accident that was. But the good news is that both Casper Schormans and Nacho Tunion are okay. They have brought themselves out of their cars. Ay, ay, ay. That is a very scary moment indeed. It's been a bit of a dodgy week for drivers going over barriers, isn't it? After the now viral accident to my good friend Luke Browning, who ended up having his big accident in Super Formula testing in Suzuka. And now a very scary moment indeed for Casper Schormans and Nacho Tunion. But fortunately both drivers are okay, as Noah Montero, Nathan Ty and Ty Fisher will get out of their cars. And Noah Montero, he'll have the word that his two opponents are okay, so he can celebrate. It's all right. There's always a little bit of a moment when you worry about your colleagues, but there is his family greeting Noah Montero and enjoying the moment as he takes his first win of the Spanish Winter Championship 2026. And a great drive from Noah Montero. When everything else was going away from him and going awry around him, he was the one who held on. Fabulous work from Noah Montero. Great drive from Nathan Ty, second place will do. And what a drive from this boy, Ty Fisher, the Canadian. Third position. Excellent work, and he can be very happy with that. Well done, young man. Excellent work from Ty Fisher today. There was so much pressure on him to mess up, and it was the established talents who did, not Ty Fisher. Great job. So although the race ends in a red flag early, the good news is that both Nacho Tunion and Casper Schormans are okay. Motorsport doesn't stop in the winter, especially if you're Noah Montero. You can go for another victory, even though it's February. So the Portuguese driver doing a grand job and getting a victory to add to his growing collection. Nathan Ty adds another trophy to his collection. He's only 18 points ahead of Noah Montero in the title fight now. But you know what? After a race like that, I think he'll be pretty happy with it. Not bad. He's getting dangerously close to that haircut bet with Alex Garcia as well, isn't he? 18 points in the lead of the championship. But he'll be satisfied with that. A second will do in the circumstances. And it's certainly a very strong performance. So, the first race of our weekend is done here at Harama, and it's a great race victory for Noah Montero in front of Nathan Ty and Ty Fisher. Beaulevet, very smart driving, fourth position from the Thibaut Courtois racing driver, and then Daniel Kelleher. Let's head down to Alex Garcia, who has our winner, Noah Montero.
Exactly, Jake. We're here with the first winner of the Spanish Winter Championship here in Jarama, Noah Montero. Noah, were you expecting the race to be, let's say, so eventful, even though for you perhaps it wasn't?
Yeah, I mean, I knew there was going to be safety cars and I would have to take care of that. But both restarts, the first restart I was able to straight away pull a gap even though there was an incident behind. So even if we didn't finish with a red flag, I think we would have taken it with a big margin. And I know the pace is there and I know we can do it. So we got the job done.
Because that's the main thing here in Harama, isn't it? You have to be very mindful of both the race start and the restarts later. How does one driver prepare for them?
I mean, you go through a few times with your engineer and you just prepare yourself mentally. And I mean, I knew I was ready. I was not nervous. I didn't have anything. So, you know, I knew I just had to get it done.
And is this revenge for Portugal in some sense?
Yeah, 100%. We were super unlucky there. And I said I was going to bounce back even stronger, and we did it. So I'm super happy.
Now, the big question. How about the Spanish Winter Championship title? Is it an option?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course.
Good. Time to enjoy it, Noah. Good luck for later.
Thank you.
No questions asking to the Portuguese. Of course it's an option to win the championship. Let's see if he can do it. To begin with, he'll have a sprint race later and a second race tomorrow. Jake, I think to finalize that bet with Nathan Ty, first we'll have to see what Noah does.
It's a very good point, but Noah Montero seeming to be the Goran Ivanisevic of the Spanish Winter Championship at the moment. I can remember back in Wimbledon 2001, Goran Ivanisevic told the press, "It is my destiny to win." Noah Montero very confident indeed after that one with similar vibes. Nathan Ty and Ty Fisher on the podium with them. Bolovet and Nasha Tunion from Kasper Schaumanns, Dan Kelleher, and then Andrej Petrovic, Renaud Franco and Fausto Ornado. Indeed, the race is taken back to the last completed lap, and that means that both Tunion and Schaumanns score points in the top 6 despite their accident. So it's A-OK for them. They're not hurt, they're all right, and they even score points from the first race of the weekend. Very dramatic start to the season, particularly for Rocco Coronel and Vivek Kanthan involved in that first lap incident. We're aware of the fact that the E3 race is about to get underway very soon indeed, and it's going to be a fast turnaround between categories, that is for sure. But Noah Montero, full of confidence, full of enthusiasm, and ready to do battle for this Spanish Winter Championship title. He's 18 points back from Nathan Ty with 5 races still to go. And if he wins, with Nathan Ty finishing second on 2 more occasions, he is already only 4 points behind him. So it's very much game on as far as the championship is concerned for Noah Montero. There's young Ty Fisher. Very impressive work from the Canadian in this one. He can